Now, let me ask you a question real quick. If something is racist, authoritarian, dangerous to democracy, why do so many Americans support it? That's the question that nobody on Capitol Hill wants to answer. And everything you're about to watch is their dodge.
We just had an important and historic vote on the House floor, a series of votes today, in fact, and we delivered for the American people. For some reason, many of the House Democrats wanted to shut the government down again and inflict pain on the American people. But I'm glad to tell you, I'm happy to report, Republicans got the job done. Our majority worked together, and we got the bills over the line. So we've now funded 11 of the 12 separate appropriations funding bills for the government for the year. And that's a big achievement because it's a big move towards regular order, is something we promised and committed to. The biggest move towards that in many, many years. Now, the president, the White House have engaged in good faith with Democrats in the Senate, and they've said they would negotiate on the final bill, the Homeland bill. And you might say, well, now that 96% of the government is funded, it's just 4% what's out there. But it's a very important 4%. Because remember what the Homeland Security bill covers. It's not just Immigration Customs Enforcement. It's not just Customs and Border Patrol. It is TSA. It's the agents who keep us safe in the airports and keep air travel moving. It's the Coast Guard. It's Secret Service. It's FEMA. We're in the middle of winter storms that people are still digging out from. So this is no time to play games with that funding. We hope that they will operate in good faith over the next 10 days as we negotiate this. The president, again, has reached out. We are restoring calm in Minnesota. But again, we make the plea and the demand that the governors and the mayors in these blue states and blue cities participate with federal law enforcement so that we have a safer environment in which to implement and to enforce federal immigration laws. Very, very important, and it's something the American people demand and deserve. Yes. So we'll go forward now. We hope that everyone is in good faith. We think the next 2 weeks will be critical, but I hope that they will not keep that funding in suspense because it's too important to the American people.
Now, this is the starting point. Government funded, bills moving, regular order restored. Because stability is threatening when your leverage depends on disruption, right? And once the machine starts moving again, attachments matter. What can ride along and what can't. And that's where this stops being about budgets.
We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it. We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly.
Listen to him again.
The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it. We've got to get.
Schumer is over here doing a little too much. This reaction isn't aimed at, Republicans or the right. It's aimed at momentum. Calling something Jim Crow 2.0 isn't about persuading undecided voters, right? It's about freezing movement before it locks in. Because once an idea becomes normal, fear loses its power. And that's the miscalculation.
Voter ID. The Senate saying they may press forward and try to push this act forward that's passed the House. Take a listen to the polling on voter ID.
Normally, you might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it. But not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. It's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrats.
He mentions Nicki Minaj because she put out on X, what sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID, like, question mark. They're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? Is this a winner for Republicans? Can they turn this into a winner?
As is typically the case, Nicki Minaj has got it right on the head.
She's leading on the political front.
On the head. Voter ID, I've been working on this thing for longer than I can
Why do you
remember.
think I asked you?
It is a no-brainer. It's always been a no-brainer. It doesn't matter how you break down the constituencies. The American people have always been in favor of it.
You have to use an ID to get a beer. Right. You have to get on a plane. You have to...
Yeah.
We built a society around it, as it turns out, and so it would only make sense if you had to vote with one, too. I think they ought to make these people vote on this as many times as they can, because there is no defense for not wanting voter ID at the polls. but it continues to be an issue over and over again. They ought to make this a dividing line. I don't know if it's in the context of this DHS bill. They got enough stuff to try to figure out with ICE and everything else in a short time period, but it really needs to be a central focus.
And they could get some Democrats, Kevin.
They certainly could get some Democrats. I point to my adopted home state of South Carolina that passed a bipartisan bill involving voter ID, extending early votes, some drop locations as well. Got the Congressional Black Caucus in Columbia, South Carolina on board. That can be a model. Democrats don't need to uniformly oppose this just to stand in opposition to the president.
All right.
Now, this is the collision. The language says extreme. The numbers say consensus. When an idea has majority support across party lines, it stops being ideological and it becomes intuitive. And intuitive ideas don't scare people. They spread. So the government can't stay moral. This has to become procedural.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're appreciate the fact that the House has now acted and passed the legislation that was sent to them by the Senate last week that funds the 5 appropriation bills that were included in that package, and now we have fully 96% of the federal government funded. So that's a good win, a good day for the appropriations process, a process which enabled a lot of our members who in past years had not been able to participate because many of these things were negotiated behind closed doors in the leader's office, an opportunity to be heard and in a regular order when it comes to actually funding the government. So very appreciative of what the House did today. That bill will be headed to the president, and we will have fully 96% of the federal government funded. What that means is there's still another 4% that's not funded and is operating on a 2-week continuing resolution, which I had argued at the time was way too short to allow anything consequential to happen when it comes to resolving the issues around DHS. But that being said, the Democrats insisted on it. So those discussions will get underway. Katie Britt will lead that on our side, and but ultimately that's going to be a conversation between the President of the United States and the Democrats here in the Senate. What I hope it doesn't devolve into is something that makes it harder, not easier, to deport and detain dangerous illegal aliens in this country. And I also hope that it focuses on protecting and ensuring that the law enforcement officers in this country are safe in their jobs, and that a lot of the tumult that we've experienced in some of our cities around the country starts to dissipate as they are able to effectively function and do what the American people expect them to do. So that's what's going to be happening, at least with respect to DHS. This week, as you know, we're going to be dealing with confirming judges, and then we'll be off to the next challenge. But a good accomplishment, I think, today in terms of ensuring that 96% of the federal government will be funded. And I think that's something for which the American people can be grateful. No federal employee should be taken hostage by a government shutdown, something I've said before and something that the House reiterated with their action today.
Now the focus shifts to execution, law enforcement, DHS function. Because once the public agrees on what should exist, the real fight becomes who is allowed to, enforce it. That's where pressure builds, not in speeches, but in silence. In silence, that's where the culture steps in.
California made it actually illegal to ask for ID when people vote.
Yes. California and New York, you are not allowed to show your ID when you vote. I just want to be clear so everyone understands this. In California and New York, you are not allowed to show your ID even if you want to.
Right. Why would that ever be a good idea?
I mean,
if you wanted to steel man it.
If you're trying to facilitate fraud in elections, it's a great idea.
That's the only reason.
Yes.
There's no other reason logically why that would be a good idea.
It's for fraud. It's like wake up, sheeple. Wake up. Hello. Like, let's say you wanted to commit fraud. What are the things you would do?
Yeah,
you would say you don't need ID, and you can mail in your ballot.
California made it actually illegal.
Now, this clip travels because it strips away framing. No bill, numbers, no floor speeches. Just one simple question. Why would verification be treated like a threat? Seriously. Once that question lands, the debate escapes politics and enters, common sense. Thank God. And common sense is dangerous, very dangerous to a system that relies on confusion.
They're on lock, stock, and barrel. And the Democrats will never vote on it because the Republicans should get that through. And you know how you get it through? The filibuster. Get rid of the filibuster and start voting. Yes. Mr. President.
So the pressure is reaching the ceiling. When voters agree, culture echoes it and process slows it down. The conflict becomes pretty obvious. At that point, the filibuster isn't a rule. It's basically a shield, which brings us back to the original reaction.
3 weeks, there has been a lot of news under the surface about the SAVE Act. This is a bill to safeguard our elections and require proof of U.S. citizenship before voting, among other provisions. Now, our conversation on this started with Scott Pressler, who has been calling on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to allow a vote every day since January 1st. Earlier this month, Scott joined me here to make his case.
The American people demand Senate Majority Leader John Thune bring a vote on the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, and let's have proof of citizenship to register to vote. We have this one moment in history with Donald Trump at the helm, with a trifecta Republican government. I say nuke the gosh darn filibuster, pass law after law after law.
That interview went viral and senators went into action. Senator John Cornyn said he spoke to Leader Thune about the SAVE Act. Senators Katie Britt and Dave McCormick signed on as co-sponsors, and several others like Rick Scott ramped up his support publicly. Here's Senator Scott last week.
However we do this, all right, whether it's part of the spending bill this week, whether it's a separate bill, whether we have to stay there, and do a standing filibuster, whatever it's going to take, we got to get this passed. We've got to secure our elections. I can't imagine a Republican senator that would vote against, making sure that you have to have proof of citizenship to register to vote and to vote. Now, how could anybody, I don't know how a Democrat could be against this.
Yeah. After that interview came an avalanche of support for the SAVE Act. You see it here. The tally now sits at 49 co-sponsors, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune said this week he will allow a vote.
They are still modifying the bill. It includes right now a requirement that you be a citizen to register to vote, but it doesn't include a requirement that to vote you be a resident. That's being fixed and addressed, and I think the new bill that comes out hopefully will deal with that. But at some point we'll have that vote.
Tennessee Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's a co-sponsor, joins me now. Senator Blackburn, as we look at this, I believe there are either 4 or 5 Republican holdouts, and I'm curious, what's the holdup for some of your Republican colleagues?
Well, I never speak for my colleagues, Kaylee, but I will tell you this. It is important that people be a citizen, that they show proof of citizenship to register and to vote. And in Tennessee, we have been ranked #1 when it comes to safe elections. And we are so proud of our Secretary of State, Trey Hargett, and his team that have been able to put us in that #1 election integrity spot. And when you go to vote in Tennessee, you have to show who you are. These records have to match up. Every state should be certain that only citizens are voting in their elections.
Senator Blackburn, your colleague, Senator Scott, I asked him about eliminating the filibuster because we know that there will be 60 votes that are going to be needed for this, and there are only 54 Republicans. He said that he would be open to maybe a carve-out for specific legislation, maybe attaching it to a spending bill, something, because this is that important. Where do you stand?
And one of the things that we have discussed, and Rick Scott, Senator Scott, leads our conservative group, our steering committee in the Senate. And we have talked about maybe we use it for the appropriations bill so you don't get into these shutdown fights. Maybe we review the 1974 Budget Act so that we go about appropriating differently. But here is the point. What you want to do is remove the ability of the Democrats to eliminate a filibuster and run roughshod, be able to pack the Supreme Court, be able to add D.C. and Puerto Rico and Guam as states, making certain that we preserve the integrity of our nation's elections and that we don't federalize elections, but it is your state and your local election commissions that are still going to be in charge of these. This is all about preserving who we are and what we are as a country, and that premise of one person, one vote.
Yeah, and James Carville has said, hey, if Democrats take power, we are going to eliminate the filibuster and do all of that. You know, Senator Blackburn, I do want to ask you quickly, because we only have a few moments here, but this government shutdown, it seems like it will be resolved come Monday. You guys have done your work in the Senate, and the House seems prepared to do their work.
Indeed, and it is so vitally important that in passing these appropriations bills, Kayleigh, we have moved from the Biden COVID era budget to the Trump Republican budget. And for the first time in decades, we're bending the curve for spending. We're bending it down. That is really a big step to put us on the path to doing more cutting, more elimination, more rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, and really tackling this in the manner that President Donald Trump has set forth. And I think it's a big victory for us that we've been able to get back to regular order when it comes to the appropriations process.
Thank you very much, Senator Blackburn.
This right here is the missing piece. Not just ID, not just citizenship, but consequences. Clean roads, accountabilities. I said accountabilities. Wow. Penalties. And when enforcement replaces ambiguity, power shifts. Now, the order makes sense. Progress first, panic second, pose third, culture fourth, pressure fifth, explanation last. That's not, coincidence, man. I just wanted to make sure I sequenced it all like that so y'all can see the pattern. And when people declare war before something passes, hold on. Like my sinuses declaring war on me, I'm definitely going to have to get an air filter over here and some other stuff. My bad. But as I was saying, when people, decide war before the thing actually passes, it's usually because they know what happens after it does. So, I mean, I gotta go. Can't even say nothing else after that. I gotta go work on these sinuses. I want y'all to comment sequence. If you've seen it. My fault, y'all. I'm over here out of it. My nose feels like, be safe. Go check on somebody today. You can be saving their life. Ooh.